In 1963, Chan Thomas wrote what would go on to become one of the most controversial books ever written about the true history and origins of Earth and the human race. The book was swiftly classified by the CIA, who banned any access to the roughly 250 pages of information to the public eye. It was quickly dismissed as the establishment's favorite buzzword, pseudoscience nonsense, which leaves us with the question, if it's just the ramblings of a madman, then why was the CIA doing everything it could to ban this information as quickly as possible? Why 49 years later has the CIA only released by their own admission a heavily sanitized 35-page version? Let us now take a deep dive into some of the key points written in The Adam and Eve Story. Chan Thomas begins the Adam and Eve story by challenging the prevailing uniformitarian views of Earth's geological processes. He argues that traditional geological theories, which emphasize gradualism and uniformity, fail to account for the evidence of sudden and catastrophic events shaping the planet's history. Thomas draws upon geological anomalies and historical records to support his argument that catastrophic events have played a significant role in shaping Earth's landscape. In the preface of the book, Thomas sets the tone for his argument. This book does not follow the pattern of orthodox geology. It does not visualize a continuously calm and peaceful Earth upon which slow geological processes have written their signatures. It visualizes a catastrophically upset Earth, bearing the scars of the encounters. Thomas criticizes uniformitarian views, stating, "The gradualist school of geology, which holds that most of the features of the Earth's surface were formed by the gradual action of wind, water and ice over a period of 2 billion years, has had to discount one spectacular phenomenon after another." Thomas cites geological anomalies, such as the presence of marine fossils on mountain peaks, and the occurrence of rapid sedimentation as evidence of catastrophic events. The highest mountaintops, including Everest, contain marine fossils. How did they get there? Chan asks. Chan Thomas proposes a cyclical pattern of catastrophic events that have shaped Earth's history, leading to the destruction and subsequent rebirth of civilizations. He suggests that these cataclysms occur in cycles, with periods of stability followed by global upheavals. According to Thomas, these cycles of destruction and rebirth have occurred repeatedly throughout Earth's history, leading to the extinction of advanced civilizations and the rise of new ones. Thomas introduces the concept of cyclical catastrophes, stating, "Our evidence suggests that the world has been turned over violently 5 times in the past 5 million years or so. These are not minor or trivial events. They have caused widespread death and destruction and have permanently altered the face of the Earth." He outlines the stages of the cycle, emphasizing the suddenness and severity of the cataclysms. The cycle appears to begin with a sudden, massive upheaval that reshapes the continents and buries much of the evidence of previous civilizations. This is followed by a long period of stability during which a new civilization arises and flourishes. Eventually, this civilization reaches its peak and is destroyed in another cataclysm. Our theory is supported by geological evidence such as the presence of widespread layers of sedimentary rock that can only be explained by catastrophic events. It is also supported by ancient myths and legends from cultures around the world, many of which describe global floods and other cataclysms. Chan Thomas explores the motif of a primal couple, often referred to as Adam and Eve, found in various mythologies and religious texts. He suggests that these stories contain allegorical truths about the cyclical nature of Earth's history, with Adam and Eve symbolizing the beginning of humanity after each cataclysmic event. Thomas analyzes myths and legends from different cultures to elucidate common themes and symbols related to the Adam and Eve archetype. Thomas examines the significance of the Adam and Eve mythos, stating, "The story of Adam and Eve is not just a myth, it is a reflection of a deeper truth about the nature of our world. In cultures around the world, we find similar stories of a primal couple who are the ancestors of all humanity. In many myths, Adam and Eve are depicted as the first humans, created by the gods after a great cataclysm has destroyed the world. They are the ancestors of all humanity, symbolizing the rebirth of civilization after each cycle of destruction. Side note, isn't it interesting that in the book of Genesis, the first words the gods spoke to Adam and Eve were, "Go forth and multiply, replenish the earth." Replenish. Not the words one would use during the process of a brand new creation. In the Babylonian creation myth, the god Marduk creates humanity from the blood of the slain monster Tiamat, symbolizing the emergence of humans from chaos and destruction. The story of Adam and Eve is not confined to one culture or religion. It is a universal myth that reflects deep truths about the human experience. Whether we interpret it as a literal account or a symbolic allegory, it speaks to something fundamental about our existence. Geological evidence. Thomas introduces geological anomalies that challenge traditional views, stating, "Traditional geology attributes the formation of most geological features to slow, gradual processes. However, there are numerous anomalies that cannot be explained by gradualism alone." He discusses the presence of marine fossils on mountain peaks as evidence of past cataclysmic events. One of the most striking anomalies is the presence of marine fossils on mountain tops, thousands of feet above sea level. How did these fossils get there, if not through a cataclysmic event that lifted the ocean floor to its current elevation? We also find evidence of rapid sedimentation in the geological record, such as thick layers of sedimentary rock that were deposited over short periods of time. These layers contain fossils of plants and animals that were buried alive, suggesting sudden and catastrophic events. Thomas emphasizes the need for a paradigm shift in geological thinking to account for these anomalies. If we are to truly understand the history of our planet, we must be willing to challenge conventional wisdom and explore alternative explanations for geological phenomena. Our theory offers a compelling framework for interpreting the evidence. We will now take a look at a list of all the geological anomalies listed in Thomas Chan's book. The Beresovka mammoth, frozen in mud with buttercups in his mouth. The age of the gorges below Niagara Falls and St. Anthony's Falls, both about 6,500 years. The sudden end of the Laurentian Basin ice cap in Canada, about 11,500 years ago. And the uninterrupted years of evolution on the Galapagos, over 11,000. The geological datings in the Murrumbidgee River Basin system in Australia, showing the end of an ice cap there about 11,500 years ago. The age of fossil bones taken from the Wilshire Boulevard tar pits, over 11,000 years. The sudden end of all work in the prehistoric city of Tiahuanaco, Peru, 9,550 BC, or 11,500 years ago. Leonard Woolley's great work in the Holy Land, dating Noah's flood at about 6,000 years ago. The end of the Wisconsin ice cap, about 29,000 years ago. The sudden 200-foot rise of the oceans all over the world, 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. The sudden rise of the St. Lawrence River bed, 6,500 years ago. The changing levels of the shoreline in the Hudson Bay. The granite blocks from the Alps, sitting on the eastern slopes of the Jura Mountains, at 4,000 feet above sea level. The great legendarian Fraser's uncovering of over 8,000 separate inundation survival legends in the Malay Peninsula region. The Pajak Marsh in Australia, which shows a quick extinction of a civilization 11,500 years ago. The Piri Race map, showing the North Pole in the Sudan Basin. The Egyptian water clock, showing agreement with the Piri Race map. Granite on top of the mountains around Death Valley in California. The great stratifications of the Grand Canyon, painted desert, and badlands, each layer homogeneous, showing it to be deposited there suddenly by fantastic amounts of water. The computable age of the Antarctic and Greenland ice caps, about 6,500 years. The present growth of the Antarctic ice cap, about 293 cubic miles per year. The legends from primitive man in Tierra del Fuego at the southern tip of South America, of the day the sun set in the wrong direction. The legends from primitive man in Peru of the day the sun stood still. The legends from Malayan and Sumatran aborigines of the long night. The VAV, Earth strata, counts in Renshaw, Minnesota and Hackensack, New Jersey, which agree. the prevalence of jade in the Orient, which is material heaved up from the mantle near equatorial pivot points during a tumble, the fantastic evidence of a burgeoning tropical population in Arctic Siberia and Alaska, completely wiped out in a fraction of a day, the similarity of languages the world over, from Polynesian to Greek, to Egyptian, to Mayan, to Eskimo, to Yakut, to Oriental, and more, the correlation of ice ages and quick extinctions the world over, the survival of primitive life at equatorial pivot points, the last two being the Malay Peninsula and the Galapagos, now rife with lizards, the existence of a coral reef on the floor of the Arctic Ocean. These examples give us a historical picture of the Earth's shell during the past 35,000 years. The overwhelming evidence, when put in order, gives a dramatic picture of which areas have been at the North Pole, when they moved to the pole, and how long they were there. Pole shifts. Chan Thomas delves into the concept of pole shifts, suggesting that these sudden shifts in Earth's rotational axis play a critical role in the cataclysmic events that reshape the planet and its civilizations. Thomas hypothesizes that catastrophic pole shifts are a central mechanism driving the cyclical destruction and rebirth of civilizations. According to Thomas, these pole shifts involve a rapid and dramatic movement of Earth's crust, causing significant changes in the planet's climate and geography within a short period. The evidence suggests that the Earth's crust has shifted suddenly and dramatically on several occasions, causing widespread destruction and reshaping the continents. Thomas explains that during a pole shift, the Earth's outer shell, or lithosphere, slides over the inner layers, resulting in the displacement of the geographic poles. This movement causes massive earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and tsunamis, contributing to the rapid and severe changes observed in the geological record. He describes the mechanics of a pole shift. During a pole shift, the Earth's crust slips over its molten core, moving the geographic poles to new locations. This process can happen in a matter of days or even hours, leading to catastrophic geological and climatic changes. Thomas cites evidence from the geological record. We find evidence of sudden and dramatic climate changes in the geological record, such as the rapid freezing of mammoths in Siberia and the presence of tropical plant fossils in Antarctica. These anomalies suggest that the Earth's crust has shifted rapidly in the past. Thomas argues that pole shifts have had a profound impact on human civilizations, leading to their destruction and the need for subsequent rebirth. He suggests that many ancient myths and legends, including the story of Atlantis and various flood myths, are based on collective memories of these catastrophic events. We will now read Thomas Chan's theory on how these pole shifts occur. Chan states, "The process of a cataclysm is now known. Look at the cross-section of the Earth inside the front cover. You'll see two molten layers, the orange ones. The important one is the thin molten layer about 60 miles thick, which is between 60 and 120 miles down below the surface of the Earth. The thick, deep molten layer, starting 1,800 miles down at the bottom of the mantle and extending 1,300 miles deeper, is the outer core. Now both molten layers are liquid. However, the inner magnetic and electrical structure of the Earth makes these layers act as if they were near solid or plastic. As long as the magnetic and electrical structure maintains its orderliness, this old Earth keeps on rotating on its axis in a normal manner. The growing ice caps, Antarctica and Greenland, are not centered on the Earth's axis, and because they rotate around the poles, are trying to swing down to the equator. The only way they could do it would be to pull the whole 60-mile thick shell around with them. As long as the shallow molten layer stays plastic, the shell won't shift, but once every few thousand years the magnetic and electrical orderliness inside the Earth is disrupted, and the molten layer is allowed to act like a free liquid, which it was all the time anyway. It then serves as a lubricant for the ice caps to pull the shell of the Earth around the inside. In a quarter to a half a day, the poles move almost to the equator, and all hell lets loose. The atmosphere and oceans don't shift with the shell. They just keep on rotating east to west. And at the equator, that speed is 1,000 miles per hour. It has to be, normally, to make one rotation per day. So, while the shell shifts with the poles going toward the equator, the winds and oceans go eastward. blowing across the face of the Earth with supersonic speeds, inundating continents with water miles deep. Now, what about the trigger? This turned out to be the most elusive piece of the whole puzzle. We couldn't rely on some supernatural explanation, like sometime happenings in the heavens of a vague character which actually violated the laws of nature. No, it had to be something natural, a part of nature's ordinary structure, which disrupts the Earth's inner electrical and magnetic structure whenever it happens. We once thought that sunspots could be the cause, because they do disrupt the Earth's inner electrical and magnetic structure, but we were wrong. We found out that nature's power plant is a motor generator system existing in many different magnitudes. It's a basic structure of the universe. The energy structure of an atom is identical to a rotating planet, to a blue-white star, to a galaxy, to a supergalaxy, to all levels of supergalaxies including a universe, and even more. As a neutron, which has escaped from its parent atom's neutral zone, will separate into particles, a star, through a sunspot, gives off neutral matter which explodes as it becomes energized. So a galaxy gives birth to an exploding star when a dead star escapes from its neutral zone in the center. And as a dead galaxy explodes when it escapes from the central neutral zone of its parent supergalaxy. A planet, therefore, must act the same at its energy level. So, apparently once every few thousand years, neutral matter escapes from the 860-mile radius inner core into the 1,300-mile thick molten outer core, and there is a literal atomic explosion inside the Earth. The explosion in the high-energy layer of the outer core disrupts completely the electrical and magnetic structure in both the molten outer core and the outer 60-mile thick molten layer. Finally, the ice caps are allowed to pull the shell of the Earth around the interior, with the shallow molten layer lubricating the shift all the way. You can see then that ice ages are not a matter of advancing and retreating ice. It's simply that different areas of the Earth are in polar regions at different times for different durations of time, with the changes between positions taking place in a fraction of a day. Existence of advanced ancient civilizations. Thomas' theory states that several advanced civilizations existed long before our recorded history, achieving significant technological and cultural advancements. Our ancestors were not primitive. They were part of advanced civilizations that existed long before the dawn of our recorded history. These civilizations achieved remarkable technological and cultural advancements. Thomas points to various types of evidence supporting the existence of these ancient societies, including anomalous archaeological findings, unexplained technological artifacts, and ancient texts and legends. He suggests that mainstream archaeology often overlooks or dismisses such evidence due to its implications. He discusses anomalous archaeological findings, artifacts and structures found around the world, such as the pyramids of Egypt, the megaliths of Stonehenge, and the ancient cities submerged off the coasts of Japan and India, point to the existence of highly advanced civilizations. These remnants defy conventional historical timelines. Many ancient texts and legends, including the Bible, the Vedas, and the myths of the Greeks and Egyptians, speak of advanced civilizations and catastrophic events that wiped them out. These stories are not mere myths, but encoded memories of real events. These disasters erased much of the evidence of their existence and left only traces in myth and legend, burying cities under layers of sediment, submerging land masses, and reshaping the continents. Survivors of these cataclysms retained fragments of their knowledge and passed it down through oral traditions and later written texts. This knowledge influenced the development of subsequent civilizations, leading to the resurgence of advanced societies. Final notes. Thomas acknowledges the controversial nature of his theories, stating, "I recognize that our theory is controversial and challenges many long-held beliefs in the scientific community. However, I believe that it offers a compelling explanation for the geological evidence and deserves serious consideration."